Good morning, you're watching A News. I'm Dilek Tuna. Here are the headlines. Donald Trump sets 10 to 41% reciprocal tariffs on dozens of countries' exports. US envoy Steve Witkoff is to visit aid distribution sites in Gaza after meeting with Netanyahu. Russian missile drone attacks on Kyiv have killed at least 16 people. US President Donald Trump has imposed steep tariffs of up to 50% on goods from 69 countries as he pushes ahead with a self-imposed deadline to reshape global trade.
Well,
US President Donald Trump has imposed steep new tariffs on imports from 69 countries, including major partners like Canada, Brazil and India, as part of a broad effort to reset global trade terms. The tariffs range from 10% to 50%, with most set to take effect on August 7th, unless goods are already in transit. Under the latest executive order, Canada now faces a 35% duty, Brazil 50%, India 25%, and Switzerland 39%. All countries not listed in the order will be subject to a default 10% import tax. Goods loaded before August 7th and arriving by October 5th will be exempt. The administration also clarified that the tariffs are not cumulative, meaning countries like Brazil won't face double rates, but will still see effective duties rise as high as 50% on most goods. Canada's higher tariffs are already in force after missing the August 1st deadline. Trump accused Ottawa of failing to curb fentanyl smuggling and claimed its government was very poorly led. Mexico, by contrast, secured a 90-day delay after last-minute talks between Trump and Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum. That pause avoids a 30% hike on most Mexican goods, but certain sectors remain affected, including a 50% tariff on metals and a 25% duty on cars and non-USMCA compliant items. India was hit with a 25% rate after negotiations broke down over access to its agricultural market. Trump also signaled penalties over India's oil trade with Russia. Meanwhile, China has until August 12th to reach a final trade agreement with the US after months of preliminary talks. A US official confirmed progress, but did not elaborate.
Today is the deadline for President Donald Trump's trade deals, but few have materialised. Meanwhile, global partners are shifting focus, with Asia strengthening ties, Africa building self-reliance, and South America adjusting exports.
Today marks the deadline to land a trade deal, one that could define the next chapter in US economic policy. Back in April, after Donald Trump launched what he calls his Liberation Day tariffs, his administration boldly promised 90 deals in 90 days. But 120 days later, that ambitious tally stands at just 8, and even those remain vague in detail. But it raises a bigger question. If nations aren't rushing to the table with Washington, where are they looking instead? In April, as a response, South Korea, China and Japan held their first economic dialogue in 5 years, seeking to strengthen regional trade ties as all three Asian export powers brace for the fallout from US tariffs. Meanwhile, American companies are pulling back from China at record levels as tax hikes and rising tensions continue to reshape the economic relationship between the world's two largest economies. A new survey from the US-China Business Council reveals that just 48% of US firms plan to invest in China this year, a steep drop from 80% in 2024. The report also highlights a steady decline in optimism about China's economic prospects, alongside growing pessimism about any improvement in US-China relations. In Africa, countries such as Uganda are doubling down on efforts to build a more resilient, self-sufficient domestic economy. But beyond individual strategies, some African nations see opportunity in the shifting global landscape. This uncertainty could be the catalyst to finally establish the long-discussed regional value chains, allowing countries to trade more within the continent. And in South America, trade shifts are also underway. The region is rich in commodities, with Brazil and Argentina among the world's largest exporters of soybeans and petroleum. Now, with the US imposing tariffs on Chinese goods and China hitting back, South American nations may benefit. Brazil could expand agricultural exports to China to fill the gap left by US suppliers. Trump's latest deal with the EU could be a major win, averting a broader trade war by imposing a reduced 15% tariff on most EU goods. The agreement stabilizes relations between two economies that together account for nearly a third of global trade. However, the EU is still looking for trading partners in India, Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, and the Philippines.
After more than a century of improvised gathering spaces, a permanent grand ballroom is finally coming to the White House. President Donald Trump is personally backing the $200 million project, with construction set to begin in September.
The White House is set to build a permanent grand state ballroom costing $200 million. It'll accommodate up to 650 seated guests in a 90,000 square foot space. Previously, gatherings were held in makeshift tent accommodation on the front lawn. President Donald Trump is personally championing and partially funding the construction of a structure, with work beginning next month.
We are proud to announce that the construction of the new White House ballroom will begin. For 150 years, presidents, administrations, and White House staff have longed for a large event space on the White House complex that can hold substantially more guests than currently allowed. President Trump has expressed his commitment to solving this problem on behalf of future administrations and the American people.
White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt called the addition a long overdue correction to what she described as a design gap in the executive mansion. She said that the temporary arrangements were unsightly and unfit for the stature of presidential occasions. She said that Trump sees the ballroom as a legacy contribution. The new building will stand apart from the main White House, but officials say it'll closely reflect its neoclassical style. The project will be led by McCreary Architects, a firm known for its classical design work. While the plan has sparked a wave of contrasting responses, the Trump ballroom is set to reshape the East Wing as the nation's most iconic residence.
After meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu in Israel, US Special Envoy Steve Witkoff will visit Gaza on Friday. The White House announced that the ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee, will also travel to Gaza. Officials say they'll be inspecting food distribution efforts and develop a final plan to accelerate aid deliveries. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt says they will assess current operations, meet with local residents, and report back to President Donald Trump with recommendations for scaling up humanitarian assistance to the Strip. The United States has imposed visa sanctions on both the Palestinian Authority and Palestine Liberation Organization. The State Department accuses them of obstructing peace efforts with Israel and announced visa bans for unnamed individuals, citing actions to internationalize the conflict and ongoing support for violence. The PA and PLO, which represent the Palestinian people and have long sought international recognition of statehood, have not yet responded to the restrictions. A deadly wave of Russian missile strikes has once again shaken Ukraine's capital. At least 16 people, including 2 children, were killed in the early morning barrage, with more than 100 others injured. Among the survivors is a young woman who miraculously lived through a fall from the 9th floor. Her story and the growing civilian toll offer a glimpse into the human cost of a war that shows no sign of easing.
The ruins of a residential building tell the story of a deadly missile strike that shattered lives before dawn on Thursday. But Veronica woke up on top of the rubble with a broken leg and concussion, but had no memory of how she survived the fall.
Most likely I somehow glided down. I don't know how it happened. It was sort of a levitation. I did not realize what I was doing. I was in shock. I didn't understand what to do, where to go. When I looked at my leg, I panicked even more. I should have evaluated the situation, what was going on. But instead I panicked.
Though Veronica somehow survived the fall, her parents were not as fortunate. A neighbour, Olena Yefiminkova, said she saw her mother's lifeless body and was told her father didn't make it either.
A girl from the 9th floor got blown out with the bed. Her mother was found dead. I saw it. One of the neighbours said that her father was found dead too. We stayed alive. I don't know how we stayed alive. We stayed alive.
Doctors say while Veronica's physical injuries are serious, the mental trauma is deeper, a harsh reminder of the psychological scars of war.
Her lower limb is broken. It is strange for someone from the 9th floor and to have, by and large, insignificant injuries. But she has severe mental disorder that was caused by stress. She doesn't know what happened to her parents.
Russia had launched more than 300 drones and 8 missiles in the attack, killing 16 people, including 2 children, and wounding more than 100 others, according to authorities. The Interior Ministry said more than 1,200 police and rescuers were tackling the aftermath.
As of now, tens of people are in hospitals. I am truly grateful to the rescue workers, to the policemen, to every doctor, to every nurse, to all who are involved in helping out, to all utilities teams. It is very important that Ukrainians can help each other to do their work in such an orderly and humane way. They restore life after Russian strikes. My condolences. To all the friends and family.
Станом на зараз відомо про 14 загиблих у Києві.
City authorities announced a day of mourning to be held on Friday. US President Donald Trump sharply criticized Russia's behavior against Ukraine and said he plans to impose sanctions on Moscow if no agreement can be reached.
Yeah, we're going to put sanctions. I don't know that sanctions bother him. You know, they know about sanctions. I know better than anybody about sanctions and tariffs and everything else. I don't know if that has any effect, but we're going to do it. Europe is extremely upset. But this is a war that should have never happened. This is a war that wouldn't have happened if I were president. Thank you.
He has given Russian President Vladimir Putin until the 8th of August to make a deal.
Thailand and Cambodia reaffirmed their shaky ceasefire on Wednesday after China helped mediate a peace process to end days of border fighting. 5 days of intense clashes between the Southeast Asian neighbours that began last week killed at least 43 people, many of them civilians, and displaced more than 300,000 until a truce was agreed in Malaysia on Monday. Our Asia correspondent Laura Westbrook has more.
The ceasefire that was reached in Malaysia was supposed to take effect at midnight local time on Monday. However, it was quickly tested. Thailand's army accused Cambodia of launching attacks in multiple areas early on Tuesday. Cambodia said there was no firing in any location. The Thai army then reported exchanges of gunfire into Wednesday morning, but said there was no use of heavy artillery. A Thai military statement said if violations persisted, then Thailand would take action, while Cambodia accused Bangkok of distorting the facts on the ground. Now, China stepped in to broker an informal meeting between Vice Foreign Minister Song Wei-dong and officials from Cambodia and Thailand in Shanghai on Wednesday. Beijing said both Cambodia and Thailand reaffirmed to Beijing their commitment to abiding by the ceasefire. China's foreign ministry said it was its latest diplomatic effort to play a constructive role in resolving their border dispute. And analysts say China's peacemaking efforts show its concerns about instability in its backyard, and that China's move to make its diplomacy public was in response to the US approach. Donald Trump gave an ultimatum threatening to stop trade negotiations unless the two countries agreed to stop fighting. Meanwhile, Cambodian Prime Minister Hun Manet appealed on Thursday for the Thai side to return 20 soldiers it had detained hours after a ceasefire had started. Thailand's acting Prime Minister said they would be released after Thailand had completed investigations into the circumstances. Laura Westbrook for A News in Hong Kong.
China has announced plans to conduct naval exercises with Russia as the two countries seek to strengthen military ties. Our correspondent Mahnur Maktoum has more from Beijing.
China has announced it will hold joint naval exercises with Russia in August, reinforcing deepening strategic and military ties between the two nations. The drills will take place in the sea and airspace near Vladivostok, a strategic Russian port city on the Sea of Japan. The Chinese Defense Ministry spokesperson Zhang Xiaogang has said that selected units from this exercise will participate in a joint follow-up patrol in the designated ocean areas. The announcement comes amid heightened geopolitical tensions and coincides with a separate US-led military exercise involving Japan, Australia, and other Indo-Pacific regions. The move by Beijing is seen as a coordinated response to what it views as increasing Western military encroachment in Asia. This cooperation and drill is expected to enhance strategic cooperation between Chinese and Russian naval forces, further solidifying their defense cooperation amid the ongoing geopolitical realignments. Manu Maktoum, A News, Beijing.
Previously, we spoke to Alexandra Filipenko regarding the China-Russia joint military drills. Alexandra shared how this might influence the bilateral relations of both countries and what it signals to the world.
Well, first of all, China is sending a message that no one can tell China what to do. No one can tell China to trade with who or to have military exercises with who. China has its rights to conduct any trade with whoever they want and conduct any military exercises with whoever they want. This is the main signal, I would say. Although this doesn't have a direct combat impact on Ukraine, but it's a very symbolic blow to Western unity. The Western world tried to make Russia see that it is isolated, but now China demonstrates that Russia is not isolated, that it still has global military partnerships. This boosts Putin's position, that gives him leverage to resist Western pressure, and also including President Trump's ultimatum concerning countries that are buying Russian oil or Russian gas. And this also is a potential distraction that shows that Moscow has multiple fronts and multiple allies. It complicates actually the Western strategic calculations. So this is a clear message, first of all, that China can do whatever it pleases and however it pleases and with whomever it pleases. But also this is a message to the Western world in general, and a message through President Putin and through Russia. And that trade agreement of President Trump with the European Union, as we all know, tomorrow those horrible tariffs on Chinese goods and Indian goods should come into effect in the United States. So now we don't see any deal done with China or with India. So right now we understand that this trade agreement with the European Union, on the one hand, it played into President Trump's hand, and he feels much stronger right now having this agreement with the European Union. But Europe is having a hard time. They have to support Ukraine. Ukraine war is not ending. There is no end in sight. And so it's very difficult for Europe to plan anything. And Europe cannot agree with China on trade. And right now, China is working with countries like Kazakhstan, for example. Kazakhstan has chosen China over Russia to build a new nuclear power plant. This is also a very powerful sign from China. So China is sending signals to everyone, including Russia, that China is the biggest power player. And of course, they want to send a signal that they're way bigger than the European Union and they can withstand any pressure by President Trump.
A ministerial meeting between Israel and Syria took place in Baku. According to news agency AFP, the talks focused on the security situation in southern Syria.
A high-level meeting between Syrian and Israeli officials took place on Thursday in Baku, Azerbaijan. Syrian Foreign Minister Assad al-Shaibani and Israel's Minister of Strategic Affairs Ron Dermer attended the talks. This followed a similar meeting in Paris last week. The focus was on southern Syria, particularly the aftermath of deadly clashes in the Swaida region. This isn't the first time Baku has hosted discreet negotiations. The Azerbaijani capital has hosted at least 3 rounds of dialogue between Israel and Turkey over military activity in Syria. Earlier this month, Syrian President Ahmad al-Sharaa paid an official visit to Azerbaijan. During the trip, the two countries signed agreements on post-war reconstruction in Syria and energy exports, including a plan to deliver Azerbaijani gas to Syria via Turkey. According to a Syrian source cited by I24 News, al-Sharaa also met with a high-level Israeli delegation in Baku. These talks highlight Azerbaijan's growing strategic location for hosting and facilitating discussions on conflicts in the Middle East.
Previously, we spoke with Osama Rizvi, energy and economy analyst, regarding the Israel-Syria meeting hosted in Baku.
This is a development that is every month or in the previous year at least has taken further significance. You see, like I'll start from COP29. That happened in Baku as well. It showed how Baku has gained its place in the international arena diplomatically and otherwise. And the reason for choosing this meeting particularly in Baku is, of course, that the Baku serves as a neutral zone as compared to Vienna or any other country if they would have opted for that. Azerbaijan enjoys good relation with Israel and also functional relation with Syria and Russia. So, and Azerbaijan also intends to play a very positive role in the region, and we have seen that happening. So I think that those are the reasons that Baku has been opted as the place for the meeting. If we follow the latest developments in southern Syria, there has been an escalation in matters and specifically a lot of issues on the sectarian side. The sectarian clashes have worsened. And if it is not stopped right now or curtailed, I think this region is very tricky. There are lots of moving pieces and there is a chance of spillover, hence the urgency of the meeting. Well, it might be too early to say that this meeting would turn into a regional realignment or a strategic turn in Syria's recently launched chapter. There might be some tactical short-term things that that come up in the meeting. There might be some agreements, localized, regionalized, but there would be, I would like to see the support of other countries in the region, especially the Middle Eastern countries, for it to be properly called a strategic realignment, such as UAE, Saudi Arabia. So it's a wait and watch approach right now.
Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan said on Thursday that he welcomed recent steps taken to recognise a Palestinian state by France, UK and other countries. President Erdogan expressed appreciation for the recent humanitarian responses from Europe, particularly from France and Britain, describing them as highly valuable. Speaking in Ankara, he said he had called French President Emmanuel Macron to congratulate him on his decision. Erdogan added that supporting a two-state solution would represent the most effective stance against Israel's policies. Russia has invited Syrian President Ahmad al-Shara to attend the first Russia-Arab League summit set for the 15th of October. The invitation was confirmed during talks in Moscow between the two foreign ministers. Discussions focused on Syria's political transition, regional security and continued diplomatic engagement, including earlier contacts in Turkey. Syrian officials framed the visit as part of efforts to restore stability and strengthen bilateral relations with Moscow. Traces of organic chlorides have been detected in Azerbaijani crude exported via the Baku-Tbilisi-Ceyhan pipeline. Tamam Bayatli, head of the communications at BP Azerbaijan, told A News that BTC Co has conducted a comprehensive quality assessment of crude oil across all facilities along the pipeline. BP and SOCAR are working closely together to fully resolve the issue, and exports are continuing without any disruption or delay.
Traces of organic chlorides have been detected in some batches of crude oil sent to global markets via the Baku-Tbilisi-Ceyhan (BTC) pipeline, one of Azerbaijan's main export routes. This information was confirmed following an inquiry by A News addressed to BP, the operator of the BTC project. Tamam Bayatli, head of communications at BP Azerbaijan, told A News that BTC Co has conducted a comprehensive quality assessment of crude oil across all facilities along the pipeline. The results of the assessment confirm the presence of organic chlorides in some of the tanks at the Ceyhan terminal. Respective actions were taken to contain those tanks while continuing the loadings from the tanks that were assessed to be within the normal specification. BTC Co has also continued to take necessary actions to fully resolve the issue. Currently, BTC export operations and loadings of Azeri crude at the Ceyhan terminal are continuing. The company is currently undertaking measures to fully resolve the issue in close cooperation with SOCAR, with sampling continuing prior to each loading. Tamam Bayatli told A News that based on BTC Co's assessment, ACG crude and SD condensate flowing to the Sangachal terminal, as well as crude in the tanks at the Sangachal terminal, are within the normal specification. Experts note that thanks to the timely measures taken by the company, there have been no stoppages or delays in the export process.
In Kabul, environmental cooperation took centre stage as Afghan and Kyrgyz officials met to explore new avenues for joint action. Our Tamim Bahis has more from Kabul.
Matiullah Khalis, the General Director of Afghanistan's National Environmental Protection Agency, held talks with Turdakon Sedikov, the ambassador of Kyrgyzstan, to discuss regional collaboration in combating climate challenges. The two sides emphasized the need for sharing technical expertise and experiences to protect their fragile ecosystems. Mr. Khalis stressed that collective regional action is key to safeguarding natural resources and promoting sustainable development. Kyrgyz ambassador echoed the sentiment, reaffirming his country's support for Afghanistan's environmental initiatives. The meeting comes at a time when Afghanistan is grappling with the severe consequences of climate change. According to the International Organization for Migration, nearly 5 million people in Afghanistan have been affected by climate-related disasters so far this year. Flash floods and avalanches in the first 3 months alone displaced around 175,000 people, nearly 80% due to climate events. Another 396,000 were forced to migrate due to worsening conditions, especially in rural areas. The United Nations reports that many families have lost their homes and are struggling to access clean drinking water. Afghanistan ranks among the 10 countries most vulnerable to climate change. Officials say that without sustained regional cooperation, the environmental crisis will continue to deepen. This is Tamim Bahis in Kabul for A News.
In central Turkey, a canyon carved by time is drawing in nature lovers and adventure seekers. Located in Kayseri's Yeşilhisar district, Avla Canyon offers visitors a dramatic landscape of narrow rock passages, towering cliffs and colourful formations.
Tucked away in the heart of Anatolia, Avla Canyon unfolds like a scene from a nature documentary. It sits at the foot of the Taurus Mountains and is known for its natural beauty, historical sites and proximity to the famous Soğanlı Valley. Stretching 3 kilometres through Kayseri's Yeşilhisar district, this striking canyon was formed along a fault line and sculpted over the years by powerful floodwaters. Avla Canyon itself was formed by an active geological fault, making the region a live example of natural earth movement shaping the land. With its steep cliffs, tight passages and vibrant rock colours, it's become a popular route for hikers and nature photographers. Some sections narrow to just 60 centimetres, offering a real sense of adventure as visitors squeeze between towering walls that rise up to 15 metres. The canyon lies in the middle of a wide plateau, and when sunlight hits the layered rock, it creates a natural light show, shifting tones from gold to rust red. Even on the hottest days, the cool breeze drifting through the rock corridors brings natural relief, making it what some call a natural air conditioner. Locals say the landscape is unlike anywhere else in Turkey, and often compare it to Arizona or even Jordan's Petra. Thanks to its dramatic landscape and isolation, the area around Yeşilhisar has occasionally been used as a backdrop for Turkish historical films and documentaries. For those looking for a scenic, peaceful and slightly wild hike, Avla Canyon is quickly becoming one of the region's most remarkable spots.
You're up to date with world news for the hour. Stay tuned to A News for more updates.